Hey guys, good morning, citizens. It's Citizens Journalist. Happy Monday. We are here again to cover Blake Lively's PR statement. Hope y'all like that little pivot, little short that I made on Friends. She is pivoting with her PR statement. And this was me this week after reading Blake Lively's psychotic statement. I said, she thinks that she can gaslight people and we're just going to sit back and take it. And I said, hold my poodle, or should I say, hold my dragon, because we are here to bring all the smoke on Blake Lively today in a professional way, of course, allegedly for entertainment purposes only. We have our guest. Hold on, let me pull her up here. Ashley Brianna Eve, that you guys all might know. Let me pull her up. Here we go. There she is.
Hello.
Good morning, Ashley.
Good morning. Hi, everybody.
So we are here to break down the PR statement. Let me pull up this over here. I wanted to just go ahead and get into it. So if you guys have any questions, we have a really, really long, well, not super long, but show for you guys today. It's going to be very thorough. We're going to get into the PR of it all. Who is supporting Blake Lively? Who is not supporting her? What is this? We're going to break down the PR statement when it comes to digital violence and smear campaigns, the Taylor Swift of it all, which is Ashley's MO right now. She's not only staying on Blake's neck, she's also on Taylor's neck. And then we're just going to hear from other PR professionals. Cool Mom Jamie is not here yet this morning. I'm not sure if she's coming in, but we're just going to feature some of other PR professionals' takes as well. So if you guys want to ask a question, we have the super chat feature, as well as if you've been a member for more than 30 days, you get a free super chat. So you guys can do that. And we're just going to get right in. Let's go ahead and just get your take on the PR statement really quick. What did you think about it?
I mean, I wasn't surprised at all, but at the same time, the more I actually sit with the statement, the more upset I get. And it's not even because she directly subpoenaed me and this digital violence she's speaking about, I feel she's done against 107 content creators. But the other reason it really upsets me is what a lot of people might not know is my history. What interested me in the psychology of branding, marketing, and PR was I started out in the mental health field and I started having dreams. I'm a very vivid dreamer. And I started having dreams of like back when I worked in women's shelters and women were literally running with their babies in their hands, knocking on the doors. We'd had cameras because we were protecting all the women there, knocking on the door to get let in. And I would be holding women's babies while they took showers and felt safe for the first time. And so the more I sit with this, not only am I angry because of the PR spin, I'm angry because of her using women in this PR war that she created and vulnerable women in this PR war, trying to align herself with women that have been abused. But then I'm also upset, and I'm writing a really great Substack, maybe even a book on this, that she did that. She did digital violence against people that has caused real repercussions for people's health, their finances. And then she has the audacity to come out here and do this. So I think it was a very bad move on multiple fronts, honestly.
Yeah, and that seems to be the consensus. As you guys know, I'm the citizens journalist, so I go out there and gather what the citizens are saying, what the content creators are saying. And the gist of it all, I mean, all heck broke loose. And I'm glad that you brought up the women's shelter stuff, because if you look on the background of the thumbnail today, this is going to be a series, you guys. We're doing it all week. We are staying on Blake's neck. The background of this image shows, well, it's supposed to be the scene from the Kardashians where Kourtney is. She comes out with her baby and tells Kim, people are dying, Kim, because Kim is having a breakdown over a lost earring in the ocean. And she's having this giant mental breakdown as if, it's this huge deal when, I'm not sure if she was a billionaire at the time yet. But they have money.
Yeah.
And so the series it's featuring that in the background because I've been saying it, like, people are dying, Kim, and you're over here, over, even when it was just the SH allegations, it was over your outfit looks sexy or something like that, when there was, real SH going on in real life. So I'm glad that you had brought that up, and we're going to get into all the digital violence, quote unquote, that she is talking about, and especially with the content creators and all that. But I wanted to start with the dragons. Here's some images from other creators. This is Katie and KC. This is the dragon emoji in her statement. It says Wayfarer parties watching Blake Lively put out her IG statement, and it's her ex Penn Badgley dancing. It's actually a TikTok with the dragon, and you see Khaleesi's done for down there. I also joined in on the fun, and we did. I did this one. You got Blake Lively's career there as Khaleesi in her demise, and then you got the knife there as Blake's PR statement. And then we also had Lata Les Patrias. I always forget how to say her name, but it's one of our good friends, LA Addict TV over on X. And she had This is King's Landing getting burnt down as her reputation. And then the dragon is Blake Lively, Taylor Swift, and co. And for those who are new to the story and asking, well, why all these Game of Thrones stuff? This is because she referenced herself as Khaleesi the dragon in some text messages to Justin Baldoni directly, almost as a threat, saying that she has her dragons and she's like Khaleesi from Game of Thrones. So as you guys see down at the bottom, I know most of these readings of PR statements start at the top, but we're going to start at the bottom, y'all. There's that dragon there. So the question that I'm going to pose to you real quick, let me pull it up. Here's the question for Ashley. Was the dragon emoji SEO or a challenge to @citizen journalist?
Both. I think the dragon SEO, in my opinion, I believe any move Blake makes in the first place is just she's so tone deaf and out of touch with reality, real women's problems, the struggles of the every person. So I think there's that aspect. But absolutely, I was waiting. And that's why I wait to give my take on things until I see what the PR machine does. So I was waiting to comment on the dragon. And then Sunday I did, because what you saw was her attempting, not as effectively as she used to be able to, flood the zone with that dragon emoji. So my vote is both, but mostly the SEO dragon emoji to manipulate and push down the quite embarrassing text messages about Taylor Swift and Ryan being her dragons. Absolutely.
Oh, that's so funny because no, do you want to go to war, Balaki? Literally, I thought I was going to take the weekend off, be in celebratory mode. This was a big win for us, especially the super sleuths on that side. People cover it from different aspects, PR, this and that. The super sleuths, we put in a lot of work in the early days to, track down receipts and all that stuff. So it was very emotional. When he won, all that stuff got dismissed because it felt like he got we worked so hard for something. And so I was ready to go into celebratory mode. And after consuming 13 hours of content to try and get the Friday show going, I'm thinking, all right, we'll have the Lawyers React show. I'll watch, LawTube and everybody on Saturday afternoon. I'll be good. And then she drops this statement on Friday. And boy, did I pivot. You want to talk about pivot? I went into sleuth mode to, try and debunk this whole it felt like gaslighting. It really did. It was like, he was retaliating. For those who've read all the documents, the receipts are in the documents. They just have to be parsed through and, put all together, which is something that I'm going to be working on. But I thought that was something cheeky that I could ask you because I was like, I felt like it was a direct challenge to me right when I read it. I was like, is she trying to challenge because, she's got her dragon. Somebody joked that there was only one dragon because Ryan's the only one left.
Yeah.
Baldoni has so many people that did a lot of like the paralegal free work, like Dave Neal said, like it was like a needle in a haystack, and Friedman had a ton of people to help. So yeah, I honestly did think I even messaged you that I was like, is it for the SEO for the dragon text? And yesterday morning, you have a good show on breaking all this down too. But you did say that you Googled as of yesterday morning, and yeah, dragon text went straight to this instead of her, cringy statements to Baldoni.
Yeah. And what we have to keep in mind too, when we talk about SEO, which I'm going to be talking more about throughout 2026, because it's becoming more real, is it's not just the immediacy of what's being pushed down, because the more advanced the AI apps like Claude, ChatGPT, Grok get, and even Google has its own AI blurb now. It'll put a blurb at the top if you go to the AI version of Google. So it's also scraping the internet. And so what I've noticed is AI has been picking up the dragon text. And if you type in Blake Lively dragon, or you ask about the link between Blake Lively and dragons to AI, it tells you the text. So what even content creators, coaches, business owners, entrepreneurs, personal brands need to keep in mind is the content you're putting out today isn't just for SEO manipulation today, but something we really have to keep in mind is in the digital age, what you're putting out. So for example, this dragon, these posts about the dragon and she's a warrior for women and fighting for women in digital violence. You're also shaping AI within the next 6 months, year, 5 years, because it's going to pick up this instead of the dragon text message. So the way that technology is developing, we don't even have to think about just in terms of flooding the zone now, it's flooding AI later. And that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, AI is definitely a bit pro Blake, and I think that that is because it takes most of its information from MSM, and
Yep.
most of MSM is pro Blake. But let's continue on with the statement really quick. Let's go down to the part, or go. We're just going to be skipping around. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already read this. It's, you know, what's that mean? TLDR, sorry for you or whatever. I'm not reading that. So we're going to go here where it says, don't be distracted by the digital soap opera. The constant packaging of this lawsuit as celebrity drama is not only irresponsible, but it is by design. And this is, she keeps doing this whole it's by design thing, which is so annoying to me, but to keep you from seeing yourself in my story. And if you guys noticed, the whole series this week is called Celebrity Drama. So I literally was like, I'm not being irresponsible. We do, when I read celebrity drama, I do put myself in their shoes. It's just, I'm not putting myself in Blake's shoes because there's nothing relatable about it. There's nothing relatable about her. She's tone deaf. So it's just a you problem, Blake. It's not a celebrity drama problem. So I wanted to pull up, Commit to the Brit, where not only is the dragon text coming in, but there's a theory, a legal theory called reptile theory, that we're going to get into as far as that statement. So let me go ahead and play this. Let me know if you guys can hear the sound. Can y'all hear the sound?
No.
Yeah, okay. Sometimes if I have it up too much, like if I pull, let me remove it from the stage, and then we'll pull it back up. At least we didn't let it get far. So we're going to go into this reptilian theory statement.
You from seeing yourselves in my story. She cannot say this on the stand. She cannot say this on the stand. There is something called reptile theory, and it is where it's a litigation strategy where you try to get the jurors to kind of implicitly put themselves into the shoes of the litigant to make it seem like it's a bigger issue, like it's a public safety issue. And there is something called the golden rule that bars people from doing that. And if I were Wayfair's attorneys, I would be filing a motion in limine, basically saying the court needs to bar any testimony or evidence that introduces this ideology right here, because it's barred in courts for a reason.
So she's saying it's barred in courts for a reason. So I believe she put this statement, this reptilian theory statement, because she's also, like we all know, fighting this in the court of public opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I am hoping that they, you know, that the judge or that the lawyers do take this advice and do file that motion to prevent her from doing that. But I want to get your take on the reptilian theory and putting ourselves in our shoes. Like, how does that work in PR? And like, what do you see when you're doing your work?
Yeah, I mean, that's always going to be that emotional connection. Whether we're looking at branding, marketing, or PR, you want people in the shoes and being able to relate to the person that you're either creating the branding, marketing, or PR for. So absolutely. But the problem is, you know, what we've talked about in terms of PR constantly is Blake is missing, similar to, and I know she's a controversial figure, but Meghan Markle does the same mistake where they're trying so desperately to get you in their shoes, but they're so out of touch and don't understand what our actual struggles are that no one can actually be put in their shoes. So yeah, I mean, I definitely don't know the legal side of it, but from PR, absolutely. And even from a psychology perspective, you really want to bring it into us versus them thinking as well. I don't know how this works, probably the same kind of theory in terms of law, but as soon as you create this tribalism as her being a part of the tribe, people will fight for her. People will believe her. It's what makes the Swifties, the Beehives, so the BTS army so strong. I just wrote a Substack about that actually, because
I'm going to pull it up because we're going to get into the Taylor Swift of it all. Believe me, there's going to be a lot of smoke. We're getting into some smoke to WME. Allegedly, for entertainment purposes, we're blowing some smoke.
Exactly. But
let
yeah,
me,
that's a poor piece
okay.
of PR as well. Absolutely.
I'm just going to finish this out because she does say that this is what it needs to be here.
It needs to be the trial needs to be about these litigants under these set of facts, not what you would have done, not what you think other people should do, about this plaintiff and these defendants, period, point blank.
So I love that she says that, because it's like, no, we're not, I don't think it was effective as far as a PR standpoint for her to put that in there. I think it's a big backfire. It's giving Kim, there's people dying, especially when she puts that statement that people are sick of, which is it's by design. Like, I don't know. Is it just me? Are you sick of that?
I'm saying,
Anybody in the chat, y'all want to sound off on the it's by design? Like, if I hear it's by design one more time.
she's going to ruin branding for companies that have like business by design, et cetera, and their branding. It's just like Blake is just going scorched earth and taking out every industry with her.
Chat, y'all can chime in if the by design is getting annoying or what. So we're gonna move into the digital violence part of it really quick. Let me pull up the statement before I what was it again? Okay. So this is the part where she says, where does she say, where she first starts to talk about digital violence? Is it down in this paragraph? Gender-based violence? Because I believe she even calls it digital violence, right? Did I miss it?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Be the first of extreme dangers. No, she calls it digital warfare there. Okay. So now we're picturing like full out war. I'm picturing cannons there, right? So she calls it digital warfare. And oh, here it is. The physical pain from digital violence. So in paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, someone said there was 13 paragraphs, which is Easter eggs. And we're going to get into something that me and you, well, you clocked it too, but I was like, oh, this is gamification as well with some of the stuff. We're going to get into that part, but the physical pain from digital violence is very real. So there you see digital violence. I pictured swords when I read that. And then down here, if you're looking, my claims won't be the first or last. You'll see examples of these extreme dangers. So you notice her words of retaliation and digital warfare. So extreme danger, digital warfare. So now you're getting pictures of, this, oh my gosh, I'm getting scared. This is like almost like fear. Digital manipulation. And one of the things that I found weird is that it used to just be smear campaign, digital smear campaign. For the longest, for a year and a half, it's been digital smear campaign. So now it is digital violence. It's known as online or cyber violence. It refers to acts of harm, abuse, or harassment that occur through digital channels, such as internet, social media platforms, or electronic devices. It involves using technology as a means to target, intimidate, or harm individuals or groups. Creating awareness, reporting abusive content, and supporting victims is essential steps to combat digital violence and fostering a safer and more inclusive digital environment. It takes place in close social relationship. And then this is the part. As gender-specific violence, which is what she's claiming, it is often part of ex-partner violence, stalking, and separation. So while digital violence can be used as like an umbrella term for like, just forms of abuse digitally, for the most part, it is known to be, in like DV cases or like spousal abuse or things like that. Some of the behaviors here that you see is like sending intimidating messages, unwanted material, leaking nudes, which we're going to get into, regularly reading your text messages, all this stuff. And if you look at what smear campaign is here, smear campaigns is just a smear tactic or a smear, which is measures to damage or call into question someone's reputation by spreading negative propaganda with the help of discrediting tactics. And we're going to get into the whole what defines a smear campaign, because it says negative propaganda, which means something that's not true. We're going to get into that. But let's go ahead and start with the first question is the pivot from smear campaign to digital violence a PR strategy using word imagery?
Yeah. And we have to keep in mind, even when we think of how people process information, a lot of people are visual. So you want to keep in mind all of that when you're creating any kind of statement or branding, is how people are processing the information. And if you can bring in visuals where people are actually in their subconscious mind picturing something, especially if they can put themselves into that, such as experiencing digital violence, it's much stronger recall, absolutely, and a much stronger emotional connection to the situation. So 100%, I think you nailed it there.
Yeah, because when I think smear, or when I hear a smear campaign, it's almost like, oh, someone got dirty, like in the face, like, oh, they got smeared. But when I think digital violence, I think someone's like down on the ground, all stabbed up. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
that's just how I visualize it. So, she had a highly publicized nude photo leak in 2011. Elsrich, shout out to at Elsrich. She's already staying on Blake's neck this morning. She put out a video.
Of
But
course
this
she is.
was, yeah, I'm like, everybody's staying on Blake's neck this week because it's so egregious, you know. It's almost like insulting to us. So we're like, no, let's correct the record.
Mhm.
I wanted to talk a little bit about this 2011 nude photo leak, and this was someone on Reddit broke down one of Elsie's old videos. This isn't a recent one, but she was explaining the 2011 nude photo leak from Blake Lively. And she says, you know, before she didn't want to cover it, but then she thought that it was, you know, essential to cover it because she's like, having private photos could possibly be more traumatic than the conduct alleged in the current lawsuit. Remember, she said, I've never gone through anything this traumatic. Despite threatening legal action at the time, Blake Lively never followed through with litigation. The photos were ultimately removed, which suggests someone paid for the removal or had control over their distribution. Elsie questions why Lively would be so invested in suppressing the image if they were completely fake and not connected to her. And then she walks through multiple articles. In one, Joe Francis publicly claimed that he believed Blake Lively leaked the photos herself for publicity. He also argued that such a scandal would have dramatically raised her public profile at a time when she was best known for Gossip Girl. Several outlets, including TMZ and Gossip publications, expressed skepticism that the images were fake. So these are, in their own public articles, were saying like, these might be fake. Citing things as the tattoos from the town were in there, the iPhone case, and physical features and silhouettes that many believed were Blake. So one of the things that I want to discuss with you is, why did she not, we know that she didn't do like a defamation lawsuit against Joe Francis or any of these TMZ outlets, right?
Yeah.
She may not have had money like that before to do that. But even like with PR, there was no like huge PR statement or, digital violence spokesperson type thing. It was, my theory is that she just wanted it to go away because if you file litigation, there's discovery, right? And the difference for me is she wasn't with Ryan. So this kind of like, to me, lends to the fact that this might be Ryan. What's your opinion on her now being the official, or, telling herself that she's the official spokesperson for digital violence. And then, she never spoke up on this, for other women who had their nude photos leaked or anything like that.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. And I agree with you on multiple fronts. I do think, which also makes it so egregious that she went after the everyday content creator, because I do agree that there's an aspect of not having the resources to go against big organizations or companies, and some like as in money. And sometimes that's a very real situation, which again makes it so much more egregious that she came after the everyday content creator. But, I'm with you as well. The possibility that she leaked them herself. Allegedly, my opinion only.
Allegedly, in my opinion only. Don't come at us. But, at the time, that was the thing to do. We have a great lawsuit right now. And I'd love to have you back on for some of the other cases that we're covering. But we have the current Kim K. Ray J lawsuit where he's now saying, like, look, they actually orchestrated this allegedly. And he's supposed to be coming with the receipts up to like even bringing in a witness, the boss of Vivid Entertainment. So that's going to be insane to see if that's true or not. But yeah, at this time in the 2000s, it was typical for celebrities to leak this kind of stuff for PR attention and, publicity. So we're going to move on to the smear campaign part of it, where we were talking about how it's negative propaganda, right? We had a lawyer over here on X. Well, before I get into that, we had Cool Mom Jamie. She was supposed to be with us today. Let me see if she's in no, she's not in the staging. So I don't know what happened. Hopefully we can get her as a guest on at another time. But I'm going to play this quick video of her where we're talking about whether whether it is true or not, what constitutes a smear campaign. So she used to do PR. She's now a Hollywood insider. And this is what she had to say.
The internet violence that she experienced was once again her running her loud mouth to reporters saying obnoxious things. The internet is forever. I would be silent. I mean, I wouldn't have even brought this suit, but to claim that the internet's bullying her at the behest of Justin, I don't know a single creator who was paid to run their mouth about Blake. These were just unflattering clips that have accrued over the years, and nobody likes her, so her karma is coming. Anyway, get in my comments if you could.
So we had a lawyer chime in. Lawyered Up is one of my favorite lawyers over on X, and they were like, one thing that doesn't get discussed enough is the truth. Like, this is true. If I tell the truth about you in public, is it a smear campaign? I don't think so. Did Lively take over the movie? Yes. Did she sideline the director? Yes. Did she promote her private alcohol brand while promoting a DV movie? Yes. Did she promote a DV movie as a romantic movie? Yes. Is Baldoni prohibited from saying he didn't commit SH on Lively? No. Where is the smear? He continues, on the retaliation claim, Lively has to prove that the alleged smear campaign was waged wholly or partially in retaliation for or on account of her protected activities. If the smear campaign was in retaliation for her improperly taking over the movie, sidelining the director, lying for her PGA credit, bullying the director with her celebrity friends like Taylor Swift, insensitive promotion of alcohol in relation to a DV movie. I'm almost running out of breath with all these things that are being listed. That's not actionable because those actions are not protected activities. Oh, and by the way, Lively never identified any negative article, post, video, or other content that was orchestrated by the Wayfair team prior to her initiation of the complaint, nor has she tied any such negative coverage to her protected activities. So just like Cool Mom Jamie said, this is stuff that was out there. These are her own words. How is this a smear campaign? My question for you is, in PR, do you have to be careful what you put out there, amplify if you knowingly know it's not true, or is it just the wild, wild west?
Oh, that's a great question. And the answer is that you should be doing it ethically. Is it always done ethically? No. There's something called white hat SEO, gray hat SEO, and black hat SEO. And creating false information, or even what we saw, for example, in the Amanda Ghost case, where allegedly Melissa and Jed had created these smear websites, and they used amandaghost.com that's called squatting on her amandaghost.com URL. That's black hat SEO. So no, you're not supposed to amplify or even put out what's not true. That's actually another argument that's happening in the Rebel Ghost case. But does it happen? Unfortunately, yes. And that's why I'm completely ashamed with the industry, to be quite honest, and why I rarely work in PR anymore, and why I created the channel, because unfortunately it happens more than you realize, but it's not supposed to. Ethically, you're supposed to be spinning essentially what Justin wanted, right? He kept saying, amplify the positive about me, put out like the good things I'm doing. That is ethical PR. But there's some shady shit that goes down for sure.
I know you're not a lawyer, but from your PR standpoint, is it a smear campaign if it's the truth?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because if you look at the definition, it says spreading negative propaganda. For me, propaganda is usually like false rumors, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes it can have some truth to it, right? But for me, when I think smear campaign, I think, like gossip, rumors, things like that.
Yeah. So I have a firmer line than I think a lot of people in the industry. And for me, I don't agree with black hat SEO. So in my opinion, even if there is like a thread of truth that you have spun out of control, and you're using black hat SEO, to me, that's still not ethical. And I would put it under smear campaign. In those cases, you're still just taking, like, there's like maybe a seed of a truth and you're just running wild with it. But ultimately, I would say no. If you're just amplifying things that are true, like, for example, Blake Lively said, grab your friends and grab your florals, and they're amplifying something like that, I don't see that as a smear campaign. No.
And TMZ, I'm like, well, TMZ has gotten away with a lot of things, that, later turned out not to be quite true. So I always wondered how media publications got away with that without, like the allegedly, or, some of them will put allegedly, but I know TMZ has, really big, especially in the David case. If you follow true crime, there was a lot of misleading information on that one. But is it illegal to start or participate in a smear campaign? This is what I got off the net. And it says smear campaigns become illegal when they involve defamation, slander, or libel, false statements made publicly that damage a person's reputation. And when I read that, I think more about Blake than I do about Justin Baldoni, because she was out there spreading that he was a predator. Her publicist, Leslie Sloan, there are text messages, which obviously we don't, because, she fought that and said, she didn't say SA. She said something else. We have the whole James Vitushka versus Leslie Sloan saga that I hope gets juicy in the Stephanie Jones case.
I hope so.
But to me, when I read this, I'm like, well, wow, Blake did a smear campaign against Justin. When I read this, I don't see anything that shows Baldoni doing a smear campaign against Blake, in my opinion.
No, I agree
So
with you.
we're going to get into this next little segment. I think there was one more thing that I wanted to point out. I might be able to move this one over here because I was like, I might have had that slide in the wrong place. But I wanted to get into this. Obviously, this is using AI, so I'm still running through all these terms, right? I'm not quite sure if any of these are like super legit or whatever. So I'm just running through each one of alleged behaviors that Blake Lively may have engaged in. Relational aggression when it comes to, turning everybody against him. Workplace ostracism, which is the term in psychology, basically ostracizing him from his the other cast members. Social undermining, mobbing, group bullying, informal blacklisting with all those private text messages that came out to WME and Sony and all that, which leads right into whisper campaigns. Now, this one I'm going to do a deep dive on because whisper campaigns are basically untraceable private campaigns. The only way to trace it is if you get these text messages or somebody, some of these text messages are leaked. But for the most part, they're done privately, either in person or through private text messages and stuff. And it's where you're disparaging someone in the background without them knowing. So I felt like that one was a real strong candidate. And again, I'm just going through all these to see which ones match up. Back channel pressures, they were trying to ask WME, hey, fire this guy. Coordinated ostracism, freezing him out, unfollowing him. Professional isolation. Character assassination, which is with Deadpool, too. The Nice Pool character. But this is the one that I saw you cover yesterday morning, was the gamification of conflict, which is, the Nice Pool stuff where only a certain amount of people on the inside know that you're telling the joke or disparaging this person. And then you have spectacle framing, which is the same, Nice Pool, Deadpool theory, where you're framing this thing that happened in kind of like a parody way. But it's your narrative, coded narrative. In-group signaling, so all those four are tied to Nice Pool. Do you want to talk a little bit about the gamification? Because we're going to go straight from that into Taylor Swift.
It's a good segue.
Do you want to give a little bit of insight into what the gamification of conflict is?
Yeah, so gamification, first and foremost, a lot of people that might not know branding psychology might understand it more in terms of what Taylor Swift calls Easter eggs, which is why I joke that this is a great segue. And so gamification is essentially turning like a brand or a marketing campaign, which can also be a smear campaign, into like having game elements. So it's not just Easter eggs, but it might be, your favorite coffee shop. You get a rewards and a point system. You get to track your progress. That's also gamification. But it's also used in terms of smear campaigns when you start to gamify the conflict and you gamify clues. And not only is it for the insiders, because it's kind of like that little wink to each other and everyone has this insider information, this in-group signaling, which also is called us versus them tribalism. But also, especially when you start to throw a ecosystem like Taylor Swift's into this, and people that know and understand the Easter eggs, which I feel like everyone in the world now, thanks to Taylor Swift, what ends up happening is people start to also put the clues together and come up with ideas on what that means. So I really believe that dragon emoji was gamification of the conflict for multiple prongs. One is kind of like the in-group signaling, the us versus them, but also to gamify the conflict and push down the SEO of the dragon text. But absolutely, that was one thing I noticed as soon as I saw her statement. I was like, she's actually gamifying her statement literally after multiple paragraphs going on about digital violence and being a stand for women and children. She has the audacity to gamify it after.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think set me off the most, was the fact that here you have this, seemingly professional. I mean, I thought it was poorly written, way too long, but seemingly professional statement of like, here are the statistics and, save the children and the women and all this. And then it's almost like mocking those who are actually in the 67% of the statistics by putting that dragon there. It's like, you're not being serious about it. And I think that's another thing that set me off on that. So
Yep.
We're gonna get into the whole Taylor Swift of it all because this guy here, he literally said, "You think you're gonna get away with it just because you're Taylor Swift's friend?" Let me play this because I love this video.
They thought because she was rich and famous and friends with Taylor Swift, she could just ruin someone's life. Now she's blacklisted from Hollywood. We're all watching her downfall play out live. Girl, you were literally rich and famous with a great career. All you had to do was not be a horrific person, but you couldn't even do that. You were not on anyone's radar. Really regaining my faith in karma. I truly cannot wait for the trial. I love how Blake Lively thought because she was rich and famous and friends with Taylor Swift.
Sorry, y'all, I messed it up. But yeah, I love that. He's like, just because you think you're friends with Taylor Swift, you're gonna get away with it. And I think she did. There we go. So yeah, before we get into the whole Taylor Swift of it all, because this is your jam, girl. If you guys are in the chat, please go ahead and hit that like, hit that subscribe if you haven't. I am looking at some of the questions here. I'm gonna pin some of them if as she's talking. Good morning, Pam. I'm glad to see Pam Entertainment over here. I want to have her on to do the Drake versus UMG, but we're going to go ahead and get into the whole Taylor Swift of it all. And someone over on Reddit, shout out to It Ends with Lawsuits. Love that forum. They always have the best insight. So all you citizens over on It Ends with Lawsuits, kudos to you for all your great, it's really intelligent people over there. They said Taylor Swift did the same on social media, playing victim, IG statements and all that with Kanye and Scooter Braun. Even though she wasn't in active litigation with them, but it was similar. Isn't the intersection with Scooter Braun and all of this fascinating? Taylor scorched his earth, but he didn't actually do anything wrong. He purchased an asset that was for sale, and Zach Peter has a great video breaking it all down. And TS absolutely sought to destroy him. I guess she had a different idea about what should have happened, but that doesn't mean a singular man sought to ruin your life. And here she is, scorching the earth of a man who never sought to hurt her bestie either. And then someone commented, she also had a contractual right of first refusal to buy her masters, and she just passed on that. They just sold to Scooter. I don't actually know what Scooter did to Taylor besides rep Justin Bieber and Kanye. He was their representative at the time. So we're going to get into the Taylor Swift of it all. Ashley's on Taylor's neck. She wrote an interesting Substack here. Silence that speaks. Taylor Swift, Beyonce, and the BTS machine have all built fandoms that run wild on their behalf and said nothing. That's not a coincidence when fandoms are weaponized. So I am interested in all that. I haven't had a chance to read fully through it, but do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because when I read it, immediately when I was done, it was the dragon emoji stuff. But also, like, if you want to start to be the official spokesperson for this, start with the Swifties and your friend Taylor. Like, I literally just thought that the moment I didn't believe any of what she was writing because I'm like, your best friend is literally Taylor Swift. Yeah. So get into what you wrote about and the power of like the quote unquote digital violence. I hate calling it that because digital violence, like I said, is more so in the terms of spousal abuse and stuff like that, or partner abuse. Yeah. But that's why I keep saying quote unquote. How does that play into the digital abuse?
Yeah. And it's funny because it was actually Blake's statement that prompted me to do this series.
Like, Taylor would have been done getting married in June, no smoke on Taylor, and then she just brings her back.
Exactly. So the series, the first part of the series was when fandom turns into faith, and it's the link between branding psychology and cults and how brands weaponize that. And branding psychology isn't inherently bad. For example, Apple, I found Apple and started using Apple products because when I saw the Think Different ad, the original one, the OG one, I was like, well, man, I want to change the world. I think different. And if I want to change the world and do good things in this world, I need an Apple. I need a Mac. And so there's nothing wrong with branding psychology inherently when it's used properly. But when the problem is there's no ceiling and there's no regulation on it, it becomes a cult. And so I break down the original article, The Signs of a Cult. I actually got an email this morning saying, girl, I bought a book and a course on cults, and your Substack is giving me more information than the book and the course that I bought. So I break that down first. And then the silence that speaks is the next step of that of, okay, so you've built this machine that's essentially operating like a cult. And I break down the similarities between the Swifties and cult behavior. And then we look at the silence that speaks, and the silence is actually a tactic in PR. It's very intentional. Well, Taylor Swift has built a brand on Easter eggs and turned them into a directed attention weapon. This brand is basically find the Easter eggs, and her brand enemy is consistently a person, which in my opinion is not ethical. Your brand enemy should be a system that you don't agree with or an approach to something you don't agree with, not another individual. But she's consistently, you look at Jake Gyllenhaal, you look at poor Joe Alwyn, anyone that Scooter Braun, Kanye West, Kim Kardashian, any journalists that put bad reviews out of her stuff. Anyone that says anything that challenges even in the slightest, her entire ecosystem of her brand has been to immediately identify that person as an enemy and attack the enemy. And to me, and what I talk about in this piece is the psychology of her brand and staying silent is essentially her approving it. She's never come out. She's never said stop. She's never told people that it's not appropriate to do that. In PR and crisis communication, it's called implied endorsement by inaction. And that's when they have the platform to say something to clear up the harm that's being done, but they choose not to address it because it benefits their brand more to not address it. So the audacity of Blake to be besties with Taylor, who you want to talk about digital violence, every single day I get death threats from Swifties and like hordes of Swifties. So you want to talk about digital violence when Taylor has not once spoke up about any kind of harm that's been done through her Easter eggs or her husband's Easter eggs in Deadpool, her and her husband about Justin Baldoni. And it's just, you know, it's these fandoms that are weaponized and all these rich people think it's a game because it fills their pockets and they have all these inside jokes. But yes, her silence is what is referred to in the industry as essentially like the stamp of approval.
And one of the questions I was posing, did Blake Lively learn the pivot from Taylor Swift? Because if you guys remember the Kanye West controversy between her and him and Taylor, I'm going to just do a quick little reminder of that. In the beginning, it was a song where it said, you know, I effed Blake, or not Blake, Taylor, or I made that girl famous or something, you know, saying that, you know, I don't know exactly what the direct words were, but she basically, when the song dropped, said, oh my God, I'm horrified, because her fans were like, how dare you let him use that kind of language against you? I made that be famous or whatever. And she's like, I never approved it. So then Kim K, she comes out with the receipts and it's a recorded phone call. And it's the same way with Blake Lively now that all her text messages and receipts are coming out. And the recorded phone call showed that she did indeed approve it. So then she pivoted, okay? If you guys remember that case, she pivoted into saying, well, I approved it, but I didn't approve that part. And then everybody started to turn on Kim again, and the Swifties went crazy on Kim. And then she tried to act like the victim, saying that her and Joe had a hole up in London for a year and a half because of Kim K. And it's like, you know, I wondered, did Blake Lively learn this pivot from Taylor? Because now it's not a digital smear campaign. Now it's digital violence. Now it's not about the SH, it's about the retaliation. And this is something that I've seen Taylor Swift do a couple times when, you know, her back is against the wall, is to pivot and change the story, victimize herself. You know, they talk about Darvo and stuff. And it seems like, allegedly, for entertainment purposes, that is a tactic that these celebrities use themselves.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think absolutely you're right. And she even said, there were the text messages that came out where she talked about how she has a friend that thinks like the Roman Empire or something along those lines, where she's referring to Taylor Swift. I absolutely think she's learned a lot in PR from Taylor. And Taylor has her PR machine works so well ultimately because of the Swifties. And that's exactly why she'll never say anything. That's exactly why she will stay silent on the harm that's done. Because the Swifties, the pivot that she always will do is that I'm the victim. And then it becomes like an attack, the psychology that she's built within this brand, especially the us versus them architecture of it. It's so strong that any slight against Taylor is not just an attack on her, but attack on their core identity, because they see themselves within her. And she's built such a parasocial, intentionally relationship with them. But I agree. Absolutely. I think Blake's learned from her and probably still has Taylor in her ear, to be honest.
So I've been nerding out reading white papers, y'all. Like, I'm gonna do a show tonight on like me sleuthing and stuff to show y'all like my process and what I do. But this one I haven't quite gotten through. 17 pages, I've gone through halfway of it, but it's about the classification of features for interpersonal disconnectivity in digital media: blocking, unfriending, unfollowing, muting, withholding, and ejecting. And the reason why I'm looking into all this is because one of the things that Blake Lively did that I also think was learned from Taylor Swift was this unfollowing of Justin Baldoni, which is considered digital violence in the terms. While it normally, again, is in the terms of, or, you know, it mostly relates to spousal abuse when your husband or wife will say, or partner will say, you can't follow this person. You have to unfriend everybody. You have to, you know, and it's controlling who you can and can't follow in social media. Normally, that's the way it's used. But we see here this excerpt from Colleen Hoover's deposition, where she was asked before the premiere of the film on August the 6th, you said you unfollowed Justin. She says, and why did you do that? They asked, and she says, Blake asked me to. And there's also other like indirect evidence, not as direct as this, basically insinuating that this is something that she did with others like Jenny Slate. And, you know, we see that the rest of the cast, you know, unfollowed him. There's also the fact that there's text messages between Taylor Swift and her, which is like, he needs to get that award taken away from him because you know, the Vital Voices Award, because she says, no one knows his name. No one says his name. No one follows him. Do the people not know? She's enraged that he's getting this award because what she master planned with the unfollowing, with no one saying his name, is not working. And a lot of people may have overlooked that message between her and Taylor, but for me, that's digital violence. You know, the unfollowing, something that Taylor Swift did with Joe. And I was on a show with Bocce. I saw her in the chat here.
I love her.
Tomorrow, maybe. I did a 17 questions with Bocce, and we were discussing the Joe thing where she said, you know, well, with Joe, you're not going to necessarily follow your ex, you know, but the thing was not just the unfollowing of Joe, it was the group unfollowing so that the media would see it and, you know, go after him or whatever, you know, the Swifties would go after him or whatever. That's what it was. It was this perception of like, as a group, we're unfollowing him, we're ostracizing him, we're no longer, you know, like he's persona non grata.
Yes.
So that was one of the digital violence examples as far as with Baldoni. And then we had Alexandra Supertramp, and you talked a little bit about you building a Substack about your situation and the digital violence against you with as far as like the subpoenas and stuff. It says Blake Lively's team used one of my tweets as evidence of a digital smear campaign. That tweet was after learning of the lawsuit, not before. And I don't even remember the It Ends With Us press and never commented or shared anything. Manipulating a random person's opinion is a dirty move. So now this person is getting all this smoke from, you know, Blake bots or, you know, Blake fans, basically saying, you know, like, oh, this is look what you said. You're part of the smear campaign, da, da, da. And this is just innocent people. Thick Jewish girl. Shout out to her as well. Over on TikTok, she also was in the court documents, the New York Times article, I believe, saying that she was part of a smear campaign just because she attended one of these It Ends With Us private screenings and had an interaction with Baldoni. You and 160, was it 160 content creators?
Yeah, something like that. There were a lot.
So why don't you talk about your experience after that and the backlash that, you know, you had to go through, as well as personally, I know you had some of your farm animals going through it at the time. There was a lot of stuff going on in your own personal, in real life stuff. And then this dropped and literally kind of upended your life. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, you know, and I think that's such a great point. So this has been hitting close to home, especially seeing Perez Hilton and the health struggles he's going through. And I feel comfortable talking about that publicly because he responded to me publicly and it wasn't a private chat. But I had said, like, this is so much stress you were put through. No wonder you're having these health problems. And he said, yeah, I think I have PTSD. And what I don't think a lot of people are seeing is if Blake wants to call digital violence, just to give people a little bit of a backstory, my YouTube channel that you follow me on for pop culture used to be my business YouTube channel. And I deleted everything at the end of 2024. Some people know the backstory. I had clients of mine, long-term clients, steal things from me, steal intellectual property. It's just a bad year. I was like, screw that. I don't want to work in branding anymore. And this story came up. And so this story came up. I thought it'd be cool to cover it with Ryan Reynolds' wife. Anyway, long story short, in January, late January, my husky had like a 2-3 week long horrific pancreatitis, hospitalized in critical care. He came home, and I'm going to write an in-depth Substack on this and potentially a book, guys. So Blake and Ryan are going to love that. But he came home and he was my best friend, my husky, like my baby, my best friend. He came home. He was home for about a week, passed his blood work, flying colors. And then it was a Sunday. I was putting dishes away in the kitchen and we were about to go for a walk. And he walks by the kitchen door and he's wobbly. And I said to my husband, what's wrong with Al? And within minutes, he's on the ground and screaming. And he passed away from a blood clot, unfortunately. And so 2025, what a lot of people don't realize, because I don't talk about things until I've gotten through them, is I was going through a lot of PTSD and a lot of emotional trauma from what had happened. And then I get hit with the subpoena by Blake and Ryan accusing me publicly of being paid by Justin, which brought on the Blake bots. And I was quoted in Glamour as being a MAGA mommy sleuth and all this hate from the Blake supporters. And that's real. Like, it's genuinely real trauma that causes health issues. The impact on my business, because my nervous system was just crashed out. Like, I wasn't able to take on clients like I used to. Showing up online, I couldn't do as much. And then I had Justin supporters judging me and being like, you're not a true Justin supporter because you're not talking about the case anymore. And you let Blake silence you. And I'm going, guys, like, I'm just like, my nervous system's crashed out. Like, I'm crashed out. And since then, it's been hard to get back into the rhythm that I used to be in. So I think what we don't realize is, yeah, Blake, if you're watching, the digital violence that you did on 107 content creators is very real. Health implications, life implications, relationship implications, income implications, but you didn't care. And so the audacity for Blake to destroy people's lives like that and cause real health implications, financial implications, she doesn't care. And then to put out
her statement here, she actually says the physical pain from digital violence is very real. It is abuse, and it's everywhere, not just in the news, but in your communities, in school, whatever. She tries to get into that. I remember with Bocce yesterday, I was in the show that's coming up. I was saying that, you know, she's trying to undo this system that's been around for years. Like, when I was looking into whisper campaigns, those have been around since 1800s and stuff. There's been all these systems. I'm not saying just let it go rampant, but digital bullying, you see it all the time with celebrities getting dragged. Kate Middleton, when she was in the middle of a cancer thing, you know, people were dragging her. This is just part of one, being a celebrity. Before there was digital, you know, abuse, there was MSM abuse. Through the newspapers, through I remember TMZ with the Britney stuff. I was like, if anybody could be the official spokesperson for digital abuse, it's Britney. It's Britney. It's Britney, bitch. No, I'm just
kidding. You took the words out of my mouth. I was like, I'm gonna say it's Britney, bitch.
Anybody, like, if I was to have a poster child for you know, and it wasn't digital back then, so I guess she couldn't really be for digital abuse, whatever. But in a sense, I mean, I think the internet was there, because we remember the what is it, Crocker? That was like, leave Britney alone. It was just smaller. The internet was a little bit smaller, but with the internet getting so big, with AI, with deep fakes, this is not something that you're going to be able to stop. You know, fighting to expose the systems. Which systems? Taylor Swift's? Yeah. Which systems? TMZ's? Which systems? Your PR at Leslie Sloan? You know, like, which systems is she talking about there? And then really quick, as we wrap up this Taylor Swift segment, I wanted to give you kudos, because I don't know if this is a crystal ball or not. You could tell me. But I remember when you were talking about Taylor Swift, you were like, usually a PR tactic when there's smoke, when the citizens are giving smoke to a celebrity, number one go-to is donate. Donate, donate, donate. And so I ran into this one while I was putting together the show, and I wanted to ask you, because I'm not sure if you had the show before or after. This was April 2nd, but it says, Taylor Swift donates proceeds from Elizabeth Taylor music video to the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation. And I'm like, clapped, because I'm pretty sure you made the video before April 2nd.
I did. It was before that. And I've talked about it the last year. And I had said, watch, like, when there's smoke going her way, she either launches something, drops something, donates, or goes to the hospital. I mean, she did it all in one here. This is like all of her tactics in one. That's quite impressive.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give you your flowers for that, because I was like, either she had a crystal ball and predicted it, or I was wrong and had already come out. But when I saw it, I screamed. I was like, oh my God, she was right.
She's just so predictable. It's her, and Taylor's PR tactics, because I've studied her long before I talked about pop culture predominantly on my channel. I used to teach branding and marketing on my channel with a pop culture flavor. So I'd be like, an example of this is Taylor Swift. Now we've just flipped it. And so I've been studying her moves for a long ass time. And that girl's so predictable. I mean, we're going right back to when she was getting heat for her private jet use. And all of a sudden she shows up at a Jets game and then floods the zone with her being at a Jets game to suppress the private jet use concerns. She's so predictable. But yes, that is my crystal ball from 15 years of experience in the industry, letting me know that she'd pull that move. Impressive. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, no, that was super cool. As we get into the second half of the show, thank you, citizens, for everyone. We have over 100 of you guys watching. I appreciate you guys, all of the members that are here. I also appreciate y'all. If you're not a member, you can become a member for $3.99. It supports my coffee, so I can sleuth and bring all these incredible shows for you guys. And we have something new I wanted to feature today. Up there on the right-hand corner, you see this little QR code with the coffee cup. If you scan that, if you're watching on the TV or anything, you can buy me a coffee over there. So I just wanted to let you guys know that that was up there. It's going to be up there for all the shows, just to make it easy if you guys wanted to contribute to the I was like, does it make me sound like trailer park? Because I'm like, I like the gas station coffee. And then when it's in there, I'm like, but that's the kind I like. I do. I like gas station coffee. Met Cafe, not sponsored by them, but hopefully one day. Met Cafe is my second favorite. And then third, I would say the Starbucks tall can, which I call my healthy coffee because it has supposedly like vitamin B and I don't know, all kinds of like, some people are like, that's not healthy, it's full of sugar. But to me, I guess I tricked my mind into it. So if you guys wanted to support and found this valuable, go ahead and that's where you can go and support me. So we're going to get into the second half of the show, which is going to be super fun. Now that we gave smoke on Taylor Swift and gang, we are going to get into the okay. So we're going to get into the statement here. Chris, the PR guy, I know he's controversial here in the pro Baldoni stuff, y'all. But him and I share a love for EDM music, so that's how we keep our friendship going. And he did have a take on the Blake Lively stuff that I wanted to get into. I wanted him to break it down, but obviously, he's not going to give no smoke to Blake. We all know that. He did have a take on Friedman, though, that we're going to play as well. But this was his take, and I wanted to hear your opinion on it because you also have been covering Melissa Nathan and stuff. So let's go ahead and hear what he had to say.
In that it formally signals, at least to me, the end of Blake versus Justin. When she references other women here, I think she plans to broaden out her scope and draw focus back to Melissa Nathan and Tag, Jed Wallace, and possibly even Brian Friedman. Throughout the discovery process of this case, but also peripheral cases that were born out of this case, we have seen allegations surface about this trio or a combination of this group working together to create smear campaign websites that might target people like Amanda Ghost and possibly even the victims of the Alexander brothers, though Tag has refuted that. And so I think that's where Blake is going. She's going to tell a loftier story in relation to outing the smear campaign tactics of this group. That is what she will do, and she will claim that as a win that was driven by her. Is this a good or bad?
So do you think from that statement, did you get from that statement that she was no longer targeting Baldoni and was now shifting the narrative towards Tag and Melissa Nathan?
Yeah, I do agree with Chris there. And I like Chris a lot. He's good people. We talk all the time and we don't see eye to eye on everything, which is good. It's healthy. It keeps us both sharp. But I absolutely agree with him there. And the pathetic thing to me, and something I've said on my channel all the time, is she's exposed everyone else's smear websites but her own because she never had one. So, I do believe in some respect she does have to shift it of like, I'm a warrior for women because look I exposed what happened to this person and to that person. If it wasn't for me, your savior, Blake Lively, we would have never known about this smear machine and this clandestine team that's going around smearing women online. Yeah, I think she's going to go that route. Do I think it's going to work? She's caused so much harm. Her and Taylor have caused so much harm. I mean, girl, please. Like, girl, please.
I actually didn't agree with him on it because I felt like she's still going after Baldoni because of the dragon emoji. That dragon emoji was directed to Baldoni for leaking the dragon text. I don't think that he's out of the woods yet. You know, Chris kind of made it like, well, this seems like the end of the Baldoni drama, and she's now going to shift into, you know, because she talks about women in there as well. So he's like, I think she's going to start going after like Melissa Nathan, who's like a woman who played a role in this and stuff. I think she's going to try and go after all of them. I don't think she's done. She's out for blood with Baldoni.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
then as far as like the digital campaign, and this might be an unpopular opinion, and you can say whether you agree or not with it. I'm fine with that. But for me, the way that I saw these digital campaigns, and I'm not condoning these Jed Wallaces or Melissa Nathans or anything like that, but the way that I see it, allegedly, in my opinion, for entertainment purposes, is that perhaps what are these digital tactics of, you know, removing things and all that stuff? Was it, and we're going to get into WME, so we'll come back to that question again when we get to the WME part, because it pertains to that as well. But what are these tactics that Jed Wallace was allegedly, you know, using and stuff? Were these created in response to the fact that there was already a system that these celebrities could not fight against when it came to MSM, when it came to PR people, when it came to these bigger systems? Was this a system to kind of give somebody a chance to come back from something like that? What is your opinion? You could agree. This is my opinion. I think that this is what these, if it's proven that this was, you know, it, and they were making these, obviously the website is a bit too far, but, you know, as far as like trying to get the Reddit stuff taken down, or, you know, like the upload stuff and all that, or, you know, possibly seeding something that might be true so that people can get a different narrative. In my eyes, I'm like, what is the difference between what Jed was doing, minus the website, obviously, but than what all these other people were doing? And we'll get into what WME actually did in the Amber Heard case. But what's your opinion on it?
So I think, you know, for me, yes, I just want to go back a little bit into PR and a couple points that you said. I think absolutely that there is, at the very heartbeat of PR, what PR is public perception. So something I say to clients all the time, because people think you have to be a celebrity and need PR. Anyone that has a YouTube channel, a podcast, a content creation business, everyone needs PR. It's just how the public perceives you. So at the very heartbeat, to me, of any of this, branding psychology, marketing psychology, PR, the heartbeat for me is connecting with the right people and making sure that perception that's out there represents who you be and your values and what you believe in. And so I do think in many respects, it all started, and especially with the digital age and Reddit and all of this, it all started from a good place. And sometimes what ends up happening, you know, great power comes great responsibility. Sometimes what happens is you get people with a lot of money that are able to shape things in a manipulative way, take people down in a dangerous way. And I think what started out as good in many ways by some people can be used for negative and destroy lives. And, you know, I've come under a lot of heat for this. I will never stand for smear websites. There's a woman that was involved in the Alexander Brothers one, a victim of the Alexander Brothers. And those closest to her are saying it hasn't been confirmed publicly, but that she took her own life weeks before the Alexander Brothers trial. And this is something that allegedly there's SEO footprints, fingerprints that link back to Jed, whether that is the they Melissa was talking about in text messages or not. I'm not saying confirming that was the case, of course, don't sue me. That's the repercussion of this stage of digital violence and this stage of smear campaigns and online attacks, is it looks like a beautiful young woman took her life because of it. And so, you know, not to steal from Spider-Man movies or Marvel or anything, but with great power comes great responsibility. And I think all PR professionals, branding professionals, marketing professionals have to understand that when you understand psychology, when you understand how to speak to someone's subconscious mind, and here I'm getting on my soapbox, in branding, marketing, or PR, you have a responsibility to the people on the other side. And that is something, a line I will never cross. And unfortunately, it's often used to manipulate. And what started out as good in my mind has slid over into a dark side. And it just makes me really sad.
I don't give no smoke to Jed and them, because if he really can do some untraceable shit, I ain't trying to make him mad. So kudos to you for being brave enough to call that out. Let's go ahead and get into some questions really quick. And Chris, the PR guy, calling out Brian Friedman because, of course, he always wants smoke with Be Free. So let's. I was like, of course you're going to say something. Like the Be Free one was longer than the Blake one, but I love him. We got love for you over here, Chris.
Yeah.
But let's get into these questions that I did. Hold on, I did star some questions. Pam Entertainment TV, I love her. I can't wait to do some stuff with her. She had a good question, but let's go with Polly PR. I wonder if BL will include her own crisis PR team in this digital undoing of the system. That's a good question. You know,
Of course not.
it's a whole system as well, but I mean, it's okay if it's Leslie.
Yep.
How will this lawsuit affect the business of PR management in Hollywood? She asked. I'll let you take this one.
Honestly, those that are okay doing unethical things, I think will continue. When you look at who runs Hollywood, the top of the top, the Ari Emanuels of Hollywood, unfortunately, the Leslie Sloans, I'm not saying Leslie Sloan never said she's a good person. The Leslie Sloans, I don't agree with Jed Wallace and the business he's built. So I'm going to put him in kind of the lump of some shady shit he's done. Not saying it's been done in the Justin case. I don't believe it has been done in the Justin case. And I've been very clear on that. But I honestly don't think it's going to change much, unfortunately, in Hollywood. People that are okay with crossing lines will continue to cross lines. And unfortunately, what ends up happening, and one of the my favorite books, Trust Me, I'm Lying, is by a PR professional that got so ill, so sick of the field that literally left the field to be like have his spiritual awakening and now writes spiritual awakening books. So, it's been like this for a very long time. It's just not been as public as it is, but people will forget. And most people that are following this, unfortunately, us good people aren't the ones that ever would believe it in the first place. So.
And she continues saying that she believes that it was Blake who was running the smear campaign, bullying the content creators and trying to manipulate social media. Everyone's reputation was ruined. Yeah, she literally was not happy, even with the Vital Voices stuff. Yeah. She's not happy because it didn't work. Kitty Cat says, she said he was part of a cult. And honestly, he might have a case. They're not litigious people. But they might have a case for religious discrimination because there's tons of texts with her telling the cast he's in a cult, telling Sony he's in a cult, or maybe it wasn't Sony, but there was multiple people. Ben and Matt, she told he was in a cult. Yep. So there might be a case for them there. I don't think that they would bring it because they're not that kind of people. They just would be like, whatever. Let's just move on. But if anybody had a case, it's them. It says it. But Molly McCurry is a member. Thank you so much for all the members that fund my coffee. It bugs me to no end that Swift gets the credit for Easter eggs when comic books and comic book movies have been using Easter eggs for decades. Yeah, she kind of she's as far as I know, when I think Easter eggs, I think Taylor Swift.
Yeah, she's popularized it for sure. But yeah, it's as old as branding psychology is. It's like gamification is so old.
Prior to her, it was the Disney gamification. They would put like something from Toy Story into Pixar. So that's where I used to find Easter eggs before the Taylor stuff. And it almost dragged me into being a Swiftie when she, had this last album, Life of Ophelia, or that song, Life of Ophelia. And I was like, I even did an episode on it and everything. And I was like, oh, how wholesome, her and Kelsey. So her PR worked on me, roughly maybe 2 or 3 months before I finally realized like, okay, this is what, you're being manipulated.
Yep.
And it was, I remember on your stream the other day, you said it leads to mental illness and stuff. Some of these Swifties are, like, it definitely means that she's, gay, or it definitely means, and they spend hours and hours into it. I mean, who am I to say? Because I'm over here sleuthing Blake and spend tons of hours. I'm over here Easter egging her. But, and then during the nice pool stuff, I did spend a ton of time on that. But when you mentioned that, I was like, yeah, I thought about that too, because when I was Easter egging her album, I was up all night, like thinking like, oh wait, this means this means that. And it does create some sort of like disconnect.
Yeah.
So let me see, I think those were the only ones that I was able to tag. We're going to get straight into Chris's take on Be Free real quick.
I don't know that this was in service of Justin Baldoni. To me, it seemed in service of Brian Friedman. Justin Baldoni scored a massive win yesterday against Blake Lively, and the subsequent very positive headlines did all the talking for him. He didn't even put out, I don't think, his own personal statement. I think he allowed his lawyers to put out a very professional statement yesterday, highlighting the fact that though the case will proceed, it's very narrowed. That seemed like a very measured response, and is in line with how Justin has largely operated from a PR perspective over the last year as this case has gone on. He hasn't really, been very public. He hasn't said much, and that I think has served him well. Brian has always been an attack dog, and I think that worked at the beginning of this whole thing. Now, after he scores a big win, this feels like spiking the football in the end zone.
It wasn't too bad. He didn't go after him too bad, but I kind of did agree with him a tiny little bit because on my show on Friday, for those of you guys who watched when I compared the two statements, the initial statements, and it wasn't attributed to any one lawyer. Maybe Blake's was attributed to Sigrid, but I believe that statement was just the statement from the lawyers. It was super short, and it was just like we agree with. I think it was like 2 or 3 sentences.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I pointed out was how I liked that it was so short. And the other one was giving like ChatGPT, just like Gottlieb's following statement. I was like, this one just seems more like, okay, we get it. Like it was very concise. So I did give him kudos for that one. So I did agree with that part that they should have stuck with the short one. But Brian Friedman came out. And so we're going to go into this next little segment here. Bar for bar, who wins on these PR statements? Brian Friedman, the litigation legend. Y'all know I'm a Be Free stan. Spitting facts in court, bar so sharp they win verdicts, or Michael Gottlieb, who talks in circles, loses where it counts, bar so dull they don't survive summary judgment. And Gottlieb, don't come after me. Honestly, if we were to meet in a different lifetime, maybe I did like some of Gottlieb's arguments in the Drake motion to dismiss when he was up against Judge Vargas. But then he ended up losing in the final order. It does say that one of the reasons why she went against Drake was that his lawyer did not he didn't say like which exact statement it was, which exact lyric it was that was the defamation. And so she had to look at all the lyrics as a whole. And there's like a little footnote that's like a little kind of like jab at Gottlieb. And so I was like, I guess he didn't do as good as I thought he was, because I was kind of standing him when I first read the transcript. And Pam Entertainment, if she's still here, her and I did that episode with reading through the Drake versus UMG initial order. But so don't come at me, Gottlieb. So y'all sound off in the chat. We're gonna bring up both statements so you guys can see them side by side, and then we can make a decision on who y'all thought won between the two lawyers. Because this seemed personal. They seemed like these two was just going off on each other. Like it didn't seem like it had nothing to do with Blake or especially Gottlieb. Friedman's was a little bit more measured. So we're gonna get into Gottlieb's because it starts off with the bar right away. It's completely unsurprising that Brian Friedman does not understand the court's actual ruling. He didn't even argue the summary judgment motion he's now spinning. He had to bring in another law firm for the trial. And just last week, he was reprimanded by the court for having filed legally frivolous claims, which, by the way, yes, legally frivolous claims, but the big gist of it was that he didn't like match up the plaintiffs with the actions. It was like some plaintiffs had nothing to do with the action because they weren't involved in it. So it was just, I guess, badly filed, like oopsie on Be Free. I don't know exactly what happened, but what the court actually decided yesterday is that Blake Lively provided evidence to go to trial. And it's like, yeah, Captain Obvious. Like it was what do they call it? The facts, where if the facts are disputed, then you have to take it to a jury because the judge can't like make a decision on facts. Yeah. And so then it got very ChatGPT coded with the bullet points, in my opinion here. But the one that I highlighted down at the bottom, it says, and you guys can pause and read because I'm not going to read all that. But the retaliation Miss Lively faced for privately speaking for a safe working environment has always been the beating heart of her case. It's why she filed this lawsuit. The whole point that they keep saying privately spoke up for a safe. Privately to who? It's more like gossip or rumors because it was like to the wrong people. Privately speaking up for a safe working environment is to go to SAG. It's to go to do the CDA right then and there. So that there's an investigation that's done then right then and there. Yeah. To me, it doesn't seem like he should change it to privately speaking up to her coworkers and spreading gossip because she didn't think it was safe enough. Yeah. So what do you think about this first statement from a PR standpoint? Are PR statements better to be longer or shorter?
Typically shorter for sure, because especially the attention nowadays is so minimal for people. Usually you have to the joke is you have to train your audience to read longer or enjoy long form content nowadays. But yeah, typically shorter. And this is just, I read it and the only thing I thought was, how did this ever pass a final check? Like who in their right mind, whether he double checked with anyone, they asked their PR people if they still have PR people, how did this ever make it public? This is egregious. And it's like, instead of focusing on his case, he's like taking shots at Brian and trying to like stab him. And just, even if you don't agree with it, we're grateful for the court and considering the case. And of course, we're devastated that 10 of the 13 charges have been dropped. However, we are looking forward to continuing this case in court and fighting for those remaining 3 charges. And maybe they want to appeal, right? And we also plan on appealing the other 10. Thank you to the judge. We respect your decision, although we disagree, and we're moving forward with our case. There is a respectful statement that I just pulled out of my butt.
Literally.
Yeah.
I'm about to hire you. No, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna send I'm gonna snip that clip and send it to you. Like, y'all wanna? Nah, you can't be working for the ops. But they gotten ideas from you though before. You said like, oh, they should say this, and then they end up saying it.
Yeah.
I can't think of it exactly right now what it was, but there was a couple times where we're like, you said that, and then the flooding the zone.
The zone, yeah.
The whole flooding the zone thing. That was funny because I've never seen them use flood the zone in any of their comments or statements. And then all of a sudden they were accusing Baldoni of flooding the zone. And it was literally like a couple days after you did your episode on what that was. I'm not saying that they didn't know what it was. I'm sure they did. But then they started to use that. And I've seen other words. I was going to pull up that humiliation Instagram, but it didn't kind of fit into the show. But remember, I asked you when she posted to Instagram, her at Nickelodeon Studios saying, I love to be humiliated in public for fun. At the time, there was a thing from Without a Crystal Ball that said Blake Lively was humiliated. Like if you typed in Blake Lively humiliated, it was the Without a Crystal Ball video and like 2 other creators. I think one of them was Perez. And then once that dropped, like a couple days later, and I looked, and those videos weren't at the top anymore. It was with like all her Instagram stuff. So, she could have been doing some SEO stuff there. Yep. With that one, I'm gonna make a poll here. But let's get into Be Free's statement and see what's going on with his. What you think about his? So, shout out to Zach Peter, who I've been calling Zach Peters. I'm so sorry. Him and Donna, Daily Dose of Donna. No matter what, I know her name is Donna, but whenever I see it, like if I'm reading something that says her name, I'll still say Dana for whatever reason. And then somebody pointed out the other day that I said Zach Peters and it's just Zach Peter. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been putting an S on it. So my bad, but shout out to him for these beautiful graphics. I've been loving him. He did one for all the statements that came out prior between the lawyers to TMZ and stuff. And I just love visually. It's just so cool. Like we got Be Free here. So thanks for this, so I could put it on the show so clearly. He says, since the first day, and this one I'm gonna read y'all, okay? It wasn't that long. Since the first day of this case, when Justin and the other defendants were blindsided by these allegations, the legal team on the ground from the beginning have worked extremely long days and nights defending this case through transparency by releasing the actual truthful text messages and by welcoming and facilitating the release of all documents exhibiting the truth. The defendants were not afraid of the truth. The plan was not only to speak the truth, but to also show that same truth over and over again through the presentation of actual evidence. Neither Justin Baldoni or Jamie Heath or any of the other defendants have engaged in SH of Blake Lively. So here he's like actually saying like, look, this is not what they were doing. Despite our clients being accused of DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender, in defending these claims, and despite our client being referred to in writing as a predator, what I said on behalf of our clients day one and every day since then is true. Our clients are very good people who have not engaged in SH as alleged. As such, they have deserved a vigorous defense, which was led through transparency. It is gratifying to see the court's ruling confirm that what the legal team believed from day one. So his was long as well too, and he goes into the actual SH, and I think his came out first, and I think that's why Gottlieb might have gone after him. in the fact that he's like, oh, they're not exonerated by it. But it's like, then what is the law then? I mean, yeah, they were, because she brought it in the wrong jurisdiction. She didn't follow the right steps. If someone's really, if the SH really happened, and it's something I said from the beginning, it's like, why didn't you talk to the right people in the beginning? Why was the lawsuit not filed in New Jersey so that she could get her justice? Like, it didn't seem like it was justice as much as it was more like CYA, especially because it was right after they sued the New York Times. I think she thought like, oh, the article was just going to come out and he was going to be ruined, and that was it. I don't think she ever thought it was going to get this far. But
No.
what did you think about the statement?
Yeah, I thought his was great. I thought it was respectful. I agree with you, is when, there's a couple places where he's obviously taking a little bit of a swipe at the other team, but it's done respectfully versus Gottlieb's crash out. But I thought this was a great statement, and it's true. And he's defending his clients. And at the end of the day, I don't even think with Gottlieb, I think that would have essentially been a statement, even if they went to court and a jury found Justin to have not committed SH. I still believe Gottlieb would have been like, well, he's not exonerated. We just, because of this digital campaign and because it's all, clandestine and untraceable, that's why. But he's not actually exonerated. I think no matter what, that would have been her side's argument. So, they just got to fast track it now versus after trial.
Do you think that, like chrisPr said, that this kind of like hurts Baldoni a little bit, like they should have just stayed quiet? Or what do you think about this statement as far as opposed to Chris? Like, if you had to play devil's advocate to what he said. I'm not trying to put all against each other.
Chris and I are on good terms anyway. So, I take a little bit of a different view on this. I've said all along that I wish Justin would be taking a little bit more of a proactive approach to PR. So I support this. I think it's fantastic. And finally, he's able to have his voice, because every step of the way, anytime he has said something, Brian's right. They've come at him and said, this is the abuser's playbook and Darvo. So he's never really been able to even put out innocent PR. Like, anything he's put out, they've immediately hit back with Darvo abuser's playbook. So I think it was done respectfully. Like, it's firm. It is taking like a little bit of a swipe, but it's well deserved. It's done in a classy way rather than Gottlieb's crash out. But it also shows the difference between the two teams. Like, Gottlieb and Blake are crashing out on Instagram stories, and Brian's like, this is the truth. This is what happened. And that's why we were, I don't know if the right word's approved, but summary judgment was approved.
Yeah, and I don't know. I stand him. I even made an edit. You guys, if y'all don't follow me over on TikTok, I got court edits. Who makes edits out of a court case? I do. So I've got one that's really dope. That's a ode to Alexander Shapiro, and because I kind of watch this whole lawyer thing, like I do sports, and all these lawyers are obviously recognizable. Like, there's lawyers that I know from other cases that are coming on, and it used to be like Marty Singer, who was the person who Brian Friedman mentored under. So there's a lot of lawyers that I just like from like their work on other cases and stuff. And I really liked Be Free when he did the settlement between FK Twigs and Shia LaBeouf, which it was some horrific stuff, and like what happened to her is like not cool or whatever, but I honestly thought like it was very grown up of them to just be like, all right, let's just settle for the damages or whatever, because this is civil court. This isn't like criminal stuff where you have to hold people criminally accountable. That to me is different.
Yeah.
But you get your bag. You went through the damages that you did go through, and but now we're back in court. She's got a different lawyer, so I was like, dang it! Like, here I was thinking, and Shia wasn't as changed as I thought he was, because I was like, that's so grown up of them. Shia LaBeouf now is like married with a baby. Like, the fact that their statement was 2 sentences from Brian Friedman and Sean Hawley, a joint statement, 2 sentences. We wish each other the best. We've decided to settle, and that was it. But now they're back. She's back with Matthew Rosenker against Sean Hawley, which I'm covering. Will be interesting. I did put a poll, you guys, on whether you guys think who won bar for bar. Who you got, Ashley?
Oh, Brian wins for sure in this. Gottlieb's like clear knockout. Gottlieb's down on the ground.
We so far got 100% on Be Free, so it seems like it's gonna be Be Free in the poll.
Yeah.
We'll leave it up for a little bit longer, but yeah, it seems like it's gonna be him. And like, again, no smoke, Gottlieb. In another case, I might like you. There's been times where I like a lawyer in one case and then, or dislike a lawyer in one case and then like him in a different case. So It's just like when I went from the Lakers to the Heat and then back to the Lakers. So we're going to get into the WME of it all next. So now that we went, this is everyone who's speaking out. This is our second segment. Who else is speaking out? Obviously the lawyers. WME spoke out. I know you talked this a little bit about it on your show, but we're going to read WME's statement. They're saying, in an industry that too often asks women to absorb the damage and stay quiet, Blake Lively chose to stand up for herself, her castmates, and those without the ability to fight back. She has met this moment with, I don't even think I could read this. Courage, okay. Moral clarity, really? Moral clarity, calling him he's in a cult, okay. And extraordinary determination. Determination to save her rep, probably, but I loved on your channel yesterday morning. Y'all should go check out that video. It's a really good watch. Where you're like, Mr. Ari Emanuel of WME, how dare you? You were like Greta Thunberg. How dare you? Because he's had his share of scandal. And so the part that really ticked you off was when it talked about women, damaged women who have to stay quiet because he had his alleged situation going, right?
Yeah. So he had a lawsuit that he settled brought against him for SH in the workplace. So, I mean, that's a woman. And even if we go further than that, we look at his treatment of Wesley Snipes and refusing to send Wesley Snipes. And we've done exposés on Ari on my channel. Refused to send Wesley Snipes a script because and this is a direct quote, everyone knows blacks don't swim. He had some kind of issue with Wesley. Interestingly enough, Ryan was in a Blade movie with Wesley Snipes, and not the time Ryan was being represented by Ari. It was before, but Ryan was supposed to take over the Blade franchise. That's a whole other can of worms. That is an interesting rabbit hole to go down. But we have that issue. And then we also have the issue with Terry Crews and that Ari and co try to cover up SA by one of the top agents at WME. So the audacity for WME to start talking about courage and moral clarity and determination when they have like a list of bodies behind them on how they've treated people in the industry is absolutely egregious. Like it just like set me off when I saw this statement.
Yeah, and so it's to me like, oh, y'all care about women being silenced, but it's all right to silence men. Let's go ahead and silence the men because that Terry Crews stuff it's egregious for sure. And then so WME, I thought it was a good statement in the fact that it was only 2 sentences. So I was like, all right, cool, because I've already done enough reading between Blake and all that. I was like, cool, only 2 sentences. So the shortness of it, I thought was like, okay, cool. What was there anything in particular? Do you think this was a good statement? Do you think that this statement was helpful to them?
I don't. It's hard because when we look at really who it's targeting and who a lot of the PR for Blake and Ryan are targeting, it's not something I've said all along. They're not targeting people that are justice for Justin or Team Justin. They're targeting like the public that is reading headlines on Google and isn't in the know. And I honestly, for this statement, I think it was more of a statement to Hollywood than anything else. If you like want my honest opinion, I think it was more of a statement of like, you best be behind Ryan and Blake because we are, and you know, we run this show. Like Ari Emanuel, I run this show. So I think it was as much a statement to Hollywood itself as anything else.
We have at Jesse Smith here saying, I would love to see Ryan's threatening email that prompted the WME statement. Yeah. And I love that you said that because I have the previous threat to Patrick Whitesell, alleged threat, I guess, because it's not like really like a threat, but here you go. If you look at the, like, why do they write so much? Like, y'all see this? This is a text message. This isn't an email. This is a text message.
Wild.
And the reason why I thought that at first, I was on Botch's show and I said, you know, I think Blake wrote it or whatever. And she's like, I think it was Ryan. But when I was looking at this, prepping the show, do you see how it's like 2 sentences and then, you know, new paragraph, 2 sentences, new paragraph, 1 sentence, paragraph? That looks like Ryan's writing style. That he does that. So remember it was 13. Let's go back and look at the statement. Look how similar it looks to the actual statement, y'all. You see that? I mean, she's got a couple more sentences, but you see like the 1 sentence space, the 1 sentence space. She could have lumped that into a couple paragraphs instead of doing it like that. But, oh man, I lost my spot. Hold up. Let me bring it back. Here we go. So he writes all this, and then here he says, the thing is that I believe both of my wife are missing most in the debacle is your rage, he tells Patrick Whitesell. And Patrick Whitesell, is he the CEO? No, what does he do for WME? Do you remember?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
WME. I don't know if Laura can look it up for me and put it in the chat, but he's somehow involved in WME.
Yeah.
And he says, I completely understand all of this. Oh wait, hold on. The thing that I believe both my wife and I are missing most is your rage. He wants rage, okay? He's like, and I hope I've illustrated why that is. I have never had anything but intense love and admiration for WME, but I've also never needed WME like I need him in this morning. I'm always comfortable in this moment. I'm always comfortable handling my own shit, but this is a situation in which I need, along with Blake, a sense of solidarity and duty of care. So he's basically like saying, like, you need to make a statement for me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read the top, he gets super aggressive about Baldoni and like, I can't sit by and watch my wife doing this. Like, they're not good people, blah, blah, blah. So do you think that they something similar was sent to WME for this statement?
Yeah. At the end of the day, Ryan's their golden goose or whatever the saying goes. And whether that type of statement was sent or it was implicitly known, absolutely. I mean, there was some kind of conversation back and forth that they had to put out a statement. And again, I think it's also a positioning and a posturing of Ryan and Blake in Hollywood of like, she's not going anywhere. Like, she's not being outcast. WME, Ari's behind her. So yeah, absolutely. I think there was some kind of message that went between them to say that he needed the support publicly for sure.
And I know that it doesn't come off as a threat, but like when I read in between the lines, and if you read it as a whole, you guys can pause it, and I don't know if it's big enough, but if you read it as a whole, the thing is that he's basically in that last line saying like, look, you're my representative. If you're not going to do this, then I'm going to walk, type of thing. That's the way I read it. And then he says up here, like, he and his shipback partner are predators and frauds. So he's telling WME, like, these people are predators. That word keeps getting used. And he's like, we know it. Sony knows it. Sony didn't know it. Sony was saying that Blake was batshit crazy. They never said Baldoni. And as a super sleuth, you guys, I've sleuthed out all of Baldoni, Jamie Heath, Steve Sarowitz, everybody in that party, well, minus the PR people, because I barely got into that whole side of the lawsuit. Yeah. But when it comes to those threes and their families, like from childhood until now, I've dug into like the whole internet and I found nothing but wholesome stuff on them. I didn't find anything crazy, aside from the Baha'i, a lot of people, some people were like, oh, it's kind of like weird, but nobody called it a cult. People just called it weird. Yeah. But then when I super sleuthed Ryan and Blake, we got kids getting slapped, arson, we got plantation weddings. Like, it's so weird. But anyways, he says, it full stop, yet they remain unchecked. It was almost like they just wanted everybody to hate him because they hated him, It was the weirdest thing. And then somebody posted on X about Ari, and this is all allegedly, but it says, owner of WME makes it a tradition to support female abusers. First it was her, now it is Lily. Don't forget that Ari Emanuel is on the board of a company that does target advertising. Both Heard and Lively still run smear campaigns against Depp and Baldoni. So I found this interesting in this like deposition or whatever from this, I don't even know who this woman is, but this video that they attached to it where they basically said that, they deleted Reddit text messages. So let me just play this for you guys.
Was it your understanding that WME passed on to L'Oreal suggestions to assist them in being able to block some of the harassing Instagrams they were getting at that time?
Yes.
All right.
Sorry, I said text messages. I meant comments. So WME went to L'Oreal to remove negative comments in their Instagram. And I'm like, okay, but they're saying they're mad that like Jed was removing negative comments or allegedly removing negative comments on Reddit or, doing like the upvotes and all that stuff. So I found that interesting. Did you know that little tidbit about WME?
I did not know that. I didn't even know in regard, like the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, I followed through Emily D. Baker, but I didn't really look into it more than that, but that's really interesting.
Yeah. And I was like, well, what's the difference between someone like that, like a agency like WME telling advertisers like, hey, delete these comments for my client and someone else doing it. So that's why I kept circling back to my theory that maybe these digital companies like Jed or whatever. And again, I'm not saying that it's okay if he did do the Amanda Go stuff. That's a whole separate thing, the website or whatever. But it led to my theory that it might be to counteract what all these other people are doing. Because I was like, wait, they can go remove comments from, all this stuff. Like, I just found it interesting, that little tidbit.
Well, that happens a lot, though. I mean, even in regards to, I can't say much on who this was about or anything, but I know from being in the industry. In 2025, there was supposed to be a documentary that was coming out about a big time public figure that was quashed behind the scenes before it went public. Publicists will get messages from publications saying, hey, we've got this story, we're about to run it on your client, and those will get quashed before they ever see the light of day. I mean, this is very common, right? Like deleting the comments, but even just like publications not being able to post something, blacklistings really common. Actually, we've talked about on the channel in the past, Disney in 2017 was one of the biggest examples that went viral because they blacklisted the Los Angeles Times from press screenings. And there was like a huge kind of like blocking of them from just having a bad article about Disney. So, this happens all of the time, 100%.
Somebody had said that Laura looked it up for me. He's an executive chairman, Patrick Whitesell. But so WME was the only one who spoke up. Was that enough support, you think, to change the narrative on Blake? I mean, I guess you already answered that and said it's not really to change the narrative with the public. It's more like Hollywood. But who didn't speak up for Blake? We have this text exchange here from August between Ryan Reynolds and Warren Zavala, and he's just like, Blake feels so alone. Like, where is Jenny? Can Jenny say something? And Warren's like, well, she didn't really actually experience anything. And Alex is just saying she got yelled at and that they're assholes or whatever, but she can't corroborate what you need. And he's just like, she feels so alone. Like, I feel like the cast needs to make a statement altogether. And the only people or cast member that came out was Mr. Brandon Sklenar. And you guys know I'm so unserious. I made this post over on X. I was waiting for Brandon to post, for the love of God, read the PR statement. I guess Blake was done pimping him. And it says, you know what? I'm tired of your presence. Dismissed. This is Cat Williams as a pimp. But if you guys remember, there was a text message that called, it was Blake Lively texting Brandon Sklenar. And she's like, I'm pimp adjacent. Go put on your skirt and hit the corner or whatever. So I thought that was kind of cheeky. But no one has spoken up. Only WME, correct? Where do you think everybody went?
I think it's a tricky spot to be in right now, right? Because it's really a no-win situation. Because if, in fact, I'm right, and that statement by WME was kind of like a posturing within the industry, well, if you come out against Blake and Ryan, now you're coming out against WME, and that's really not a place you want to be in within Hollywood. Unfortunately, it's just the truth. So I think in some respects, even if people do support Justin, they're probably afraid to say it publicly out of fear of being blacklisted, out of fear of their career.
Jamila Jameen called her what?
Oh, she's hilarious.
I was like, she ain't read by WME, I'm sure.
No,
but I mean, like, where's Jenny? I mean, didn't she speak up and say something about my friend? There was the Traveling Pants sisters, the girls there. Brandon, who was silent. Brandon actually pivoted in all his interviews. He was like, I'm team It Ends With Us. But it seemed like in the beginning, maybe because they thought she was telling the truth, and so much more came out, because even Colleen kind of backtracked in one of her most recent, where she's like, it's just sad that this had to go down. I'm not taking any sides or whatever. Whereas before she was 10 toes deep. Mm-hmm. So do you think that they just, now that more of the truth has come out, they're just not as confident to back her up?
Yeah, I think
honestly, PR people are like, don't do it.
I was just going to say, if I was on any of their teams, I'd be like, don't do it. If I'm being honest. You can't win, because you're going, if you go against Blake and Ryan, even if you are privately against them, you're going against the industry, and some people they're just not willing to take that risk, and they literally cannot afford to take that risk in terms of their bills won't get paid. And then on the other side of that is you will get those in the Team Justin universe that are going to come over and attack. So the PR people, and I'm not saying that's wrong to do that, the PR people are likely just saying like, just don't say anything at all.
Speaking of, do it again, one more time. Do the mouth shut. Let's do the zipper, because we're going. I love how it's so easy to talk to you. Thanks again for being a guest on the show this morning. Because it's been so cool how like it just naturally, organically flows into the next segment. Because yes, one more zip from you, because we're gonna. The next segment is I'm like, zip. Did Blake go rogue, or did a lawyer PR co-sign this as far as her statement? Because a lot of us citizens were thinking she should just shut up. And I love Bohemian Diva over on TikTok. Love, love, love her. She was on one of our end of year streams. But she had posted this. It says January 2026, but I believe it's January 2025 when this is an older post that she had made, basically telling Blake to shut up. And so I wanted to include that in here because she was right.
Yes. And she would just shut the fuck up and let social media just die down with the hate that she was getting. Us as the public would have never known that she hijacked that man's movie. Us as the public probably wouldn't have put two and two together in regards to the nice pool, Deadpool little spoof. Us as the public would have never known that she forced that man into a basement during the premiere. None of that shit. We would have never known that because Justin Baldoni would have taken that shit and suffered in silence completely. But because of her ego and her hubris, she wanted to go there. And if I was Justin Baldoni's attorney, I would take that shit all the way to hell. Because not only did she steal that man's movie, hijack his premiere, completely ostracized and alienated him with the other cast, but she tried to destroy his professional and personal reputation and brand, and to prevent him from ever working in the industry again. And his attorney needs to take it all the way to hell.
So we're going to get into the settlement this morning, but I love that she said that she should have just shut up. And we had Hans at Fashionista Era over on TikTok saying pretty much the same. Blake Lively's in full meltdown mode with the nonstop Instagram stories, posting quotes from filings, trying so desperately to prove that she didn't lose like most people think she did. At this point, someone should probably take her phone away because this crash out is nonstop. So she used Canva. And I love the creators like Mandy Magnan, and I believe you did one too, where y'all used Canva as well and pulled quotes for Baldoni, which I thought was cool. Yeah. But so she crashed out and like just would not shut up. Obviously, Bohemians was from a year ago, but here she is a year later, still not knowing when to shut up about it. And I had posted this. I put, it was in response to someone named Gage that had commented, and I put, it's fitting, just like Khaleesi, she had to reignite the flame, literally. And yeah, that statement was no good. She unleashed all of the dragon sleuths, because you should have seen the sleuth community. I was getting text messages like, dude, where do we start? Like, let's get together. Like, where's the receipts at? All that stuff. And some of the stuff that started to come out of the sleuth community very early on was people wanting the Kate Middleton receipts. And that story was old news. Nobody was bringing up Kate Middleton. The plantation stuff, nobody was. It literally unleashed all the old stuff all the way back, because people are like, oh, you want to talk about, digital violence. Here's all these things that, the subpoena stuff. Nobody was talking about the subpoena creators no more. Her, again, putting out that statement stirred up a fire. And then this is going to be part of the second half. But what did you think about her not shutting up? Do you think she went rogue with the statement, or do you think that that was like, her lawyers told her like, sure, we're co-signing on this?
Well, I definitely think someone other than Ryan and Blake wrote the statement. I think she added that dragon emoji in, but it doesn't, even though it's formatted like Ryan's, just because he writes and I write like Ryan in this kind of format as well. It definitely has all of the markings of being like either a lawyer or Sigrid, some kind of publicist having written it. So I do think someone helped her with this statement, and maybe even they submitted one, they polished it and put it out, but she didn't have to crash out with Canva stories. Like, if you really feel that strongly that you need to put out this egregious statement, then fine, put out the statement and then shut up. Why are you crashing out with Instagram stories? Like, get off of Canva.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so hold on, let me pull up the next one here, because I got lost because I pulled the statement back over. So you think that it was definitely co-signed by a lawyer?
Yes,
like
that it definitely reads like a PR professional wrote it for sure.
So the next question is, she still wouldn't shut up over the weekend. Like, she thought that was enough. Then she tried to do more damage control. And it's like, girl, with your ugly pancakes. I don't even know what that is. And I shouldn't talk, because those who know like DFJ. I don't know if she's still around. She knows my pancake fiasco. I almost fed people bad pancakes. Luckily, I tasted it and was like, "Nah, I can't feed people this." And then I had the stomach ache later, because it was just like, I guess if you stir the pancake mix too much, it creates like gluten in it or something, and so they're like puffy in the middle and it's not all the way cooked. So I just learned that through ChatGPT or whatever. But something told me like, no. At first I was gonna be like, "F it," like I think they're fine, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I didn't feed a bunch of people. That's what this looks like little pancakes that are all like, I don't know, mushy. Maybe applesauce on top of, I don't know. But she posted this. It says, "Momming always continues on." And a lot of citizens had this question. So I'm going to pose it to you. Is Blake using her kids for PR? And how successful is using the kids as a PR strategy?
Always pretty successful typically. But yeah, for sure she is. And we've talked about that on the channel, how she's shifted strategies where if we're looking at branding archetypes, she's traditionally been like the ruler brand archetype, which was very much confirmed when it came out that she calls her office at home Buckingham Palace. So she's definitely been the ruler brand archetype. But ever since she's got bad press, she's tried to be like the every woman. And, I'm a mom just like you. And we do often see kids dragged in because it should be relatable, but I feel like when you're so far gone like Blake, you're not, but it should be more relatable. The idea is I'm a mom just like you. I have struggles just like you. I feed my kids pancakes just like you. So it definitely typically works.
Well, I related because I was like, I'd be doing messed up pancakes too.
Yeah.
But I didn't relate in the way that she wanted me to, because I'm just like, Blake, come on, like just no. And I feel bad for the kids. Like, I honestly was not going to stay on her neck anymore, because I was like, when I seen that they had taken them to what was that Broadway show or whatever, just in time. And he's trying to put the hat on the kids, and the kids are like you're cringe, dad, or whatever. And I was just like, dang, I feel bad for the kids. And I literally was just, thinking to myself, like, I'm not going to rub it in that, she lost or whatever. I'm going to move on to Drake versus UMG. So shout out to Drake, because Blake saved you from the show. I don't know when I'm going to get to Drake versus UMG. The nerd in me is like antsy, because some rap scholars just did an amici for that appeal. And I really want to get to it. But to me, it is more important to do this, because not only for my own benefit of not feeling gaslit, because I want to see it all, like, the whole timeline all together for myself, just so I know, like, look, she's lying, even though I do know. But for me, I'm more of like a visual person.
Yep.
But yeah, so do you think that in this case it did work for her, or you think people just didn't care?
Well, it's tough, right? So if I zoom out and like out of kind of the team Justin camp, I think overall it probably does help, to be honest, especially if there's stories running on it. Again, if we look at globally people not following this story, I think absolutely it does move the needle a bit. But it's
and
not.
It did put some articles. You know how you taught me the best. You go onto Google and you saw like moms get ready for Easter. It was Khloe Kardashian and Blake Lively. So it didn't do that much of a dent. There was only like, there was still a bunch of the other stuff. And there was only like 2 or 3 articles with this, but I'm sure, it takes a couple days. I haven't checked lately to see how good it worked. But to me, I felt like it's also a backfire, because now people are talking about your kids again. They're talking about, little kid, the little Deadpool, kid pool, and all that stuff. I already see some people in the chat. Blake shouldn't be using her kids, because after all the kid pool stuff, it brings them back into the chat. It's like, you want people to be talking about your kids. So I don't know how good it was for her to do all that. And then I'm gonna do a poll here really quick while we're discussing this. Who won the PR war? And I'm gonna go back to August, where it's Tara Grant, I believe she's from Sony, chimed in, and then Ryan Reynolds himself chimed in on who they thought was doing good PR back in August. And then we'll do a poll on who we think is winning the PR war right now. But here is Tara Grant talking to, I believe it's Josh Greenstein. She said, talking about Blake, she orchestrated all this drama in a totally unsavvy and amateur way, and basically threatened you and Sony. Basically saying, right here, Tara is saying that Josh got threatened, and now is mad that it backfired on her. Better than alternative, because she and her team, this is her PR team, are playing with fire with all of this borderline abusive language. And we're back to the abusive language with the digital violence. That's where shit can spiral, and it hasn't taken hold at all. So her perspective was that Blake's PR team's doing shitty. And then we also had Ryan over here Is it Blake or is it Ryan? It might have been Blake who said that it was a good PR team, because this is coming from Ryan, but it sounds like Blake wrote it, because she's like, he bites my lip. And I know Baldoni didn't bite Ryan's lip. But anyways, it's written as if it's coming from Blake. But then at the bottom, it says kudos to his very good PR team. So even Blake and Ryan think that they have the better PR team. I'm going to do the poll while Ashley is giving her take on it. What do you think? Who's winning the PR war now?
Oh my gosh. I think honestly, they're split into two categories. Blake and Ryan are obviously winning the more mainstream media PR. And you can see that when I pull up my social listening tools, you can see that they are winning the more mainstream, and Justin's winning more of the social media. Unfortunately, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, I think Ryan's overall going to be fine. And so really for them, in terms of this PR war, it's just staying the course, honestly, and like maintaining the image on Google, maintaining the image, especially with his businesses. Social media dies down the feed resets so fast on social media. If they can keep legacy media on their side, they're going to win a lot of favor that way. But in terms of like the sketchiness, like Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, I'd like to see into their Google draft folder after they accuse Justin of having a Google draft folder. Like, they're so sketchy. They're doing all of the things. Ryan has been proven to do astroturfing. He did it in Ontario, Canada. He created sock puppet accounts to go into Kingston community pages. Like, these are all tactics that they do every day. And then they just like project it and pretend Justin's doing it. But yeah,
the court of public opinion itself, given aside like the MSM stuff and the Hollywood and stuff, do you think the court of public opinion is more still leaning pro Baldoni?
If I look, I would say yes, leaning on social media in many respects. But even if you look at if Ryan comes to town, so I'm not far from where he always comes to town, and he's always at the Sick Kids in Toronto, it's overwhelmingly positive. Like, no one says anything bad about him. So,
well, that's his hometown. That's his hometown too. But I get what you mean.
No, we're not.
Also where you look, because if you look over on Threads, Blake Lively's winning the PR war over on Instagram and Threads.
Yeah.
If you look over on X, for the most part, I see Baldoni. TikTok, I also see Baldoni. It used to be kind of even over on TikTok. You had the Blake Gohards, but I haven't really seen a lot of the Blake people who were like super going hard on her still making contact. I think Sarah Siegel, who was a big one, is no longer there. A ton of them aren't there anymore. So it also depends on which social media you're looking at as far as.
It's true. And Ryan's originally from Vancouver. I don't know what his why he's connected to the Toronto Sick Kids. He's been, I think, for about 14 years. He's been a part of them.
Well, like you said, it's PR. He's donating stuff.
I've come under fire for this. I will defend Ryan in one way, and it's his work with Sick Kids, because I know he's been there for about 14 years, and most of it never makes it to the PR. And I only know because I'm local. And we usually hear about it like through word of mouth. So that is the only way I will ever defend Ryan, is for there is work there. But yeah, you see a lot of the feedback, and people were really excited when he was in Kingston. They were really excited about potentially him building Hollywood North in Ontario near Toronto. So like you said, I think really it's platform dependent. And it's also having like zoom out, because our algorithm is always going to show us what we interact with. So if we're interacting with pro-Justin content, the algorithm gives you more very quickly what you're interacting with. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how careers go for Blake and Justin after all of this, to be honest.
Which celebrity do you think has had the best PR lately? I know we've had Taylor Frank. Do you cover the reality stuff? We had Taylor Frankie Paul. And she didn't stay quiet. She was on her TikTok and stuff, but I felt like she did it well. And it's even more serious charges where you're like, dude, just shut up. But because it's her brand that she's like, transparent and all that, she stuck to her brand. And I know you talk a lot about branding psychology and sticking to what your brand is. And she doubled down. She's like, this is my brand. I'm myself. It was her with family. She also tried to use the whole family thing. She posted recently. There was Tiger Woods. who, you know, had the DUI also in the media lately. If his PR team did any work at all, I didn't feel like they did. But I thought it was really cool that he came out and took accountability. Like in that sense, his PR was like, look, you got a problem. You got to admit you have a problem. Was there any celebrity lately the past couple of weeks that you think has done a good job?
So I think Tiger Woods, I like how he handled it. Like you said, he took accountability. There was no spin. It was just very straightforward on what's happened. I actually really like, even though she probably doesn't have a PR team anymore, Britney has handled things really well since TMZ tried to smear her again with the alleged drunk driving, but there was never any reports. There was never any booking photos, nothing. I think she's handled it really well. And again, she likely doesn't have a PR team, but she's just handling it with such grace after everything she's been through as well. Yeah, I would say Tiger probably wins. Unfortunately, Taylor always wins, as much as I'm not a huge fan of the tactics she uses, but Taylor's such a master at controlling the narrative that I would also unfortunately put her up there.
She was good, dude. I watched it all play out in real time. And one of my favorite things, Bocce on the 17 questions asked me, how has it impacted my life? And I was like, dude, it's made me more wise because I've learned so much. I mean, I'm over here reading white papers on unfollowing. Like, I wouldn't do that on the daily. But one of my favorite things was watching the past Taylor Swift thing, because you saw the whole lawsuit. And I was like, okay, well, it was like Travis Kelce, the wedding and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was like good stuff coming out. And then it was like, oh, shoot, she got a lawsuit. And it was all about the lawsuit. And she didn't waste no time. I'm not talking about like 24 hours. I don't know how it works on Google, but that dropped. And I did a morning show. And by the evening, there was some random story about his mom, what's his name? Travis Kelce's mom, talking about like the wedding or making some comment. And that was higher up. Mm-hmm. Or like, there was 3 stories about that. And then it was like two or three. Cause like how you can see like the main stories and then you have to click for more news. So I was like, dang, she did that quick. And with the backlash here with the Blake Lively stuff, when the dismissal came, all the articles was like, is Taylor Swift in trouble? Because Will Her Text, Rob Shooter came out from Reality T saying, is Taylor Swift back in the chat? And then right away, she does this whole donation to the Elizabeth Taylor stuff. And it's a masterclass to watch if look for.
Yeah, it really is. It's such a well-oiled machine with Taylor's crew.
Mm-hmm. So we're gonna go to docket updates to end the show here. You guys know docket updates is the place to be. Go support Carol over there. And the latest news is that Judge Cave, who's the settlement judge, has ordered a conference for Lively and her counsel to discuss updated settlement position. So the plaintiffs will be going on at 3 p.m. at SDNY courthouse. And then the defendants, who are now only TAG, Wayfarer, and It Ends With Us Movie LLC, will be meeting at 4 p.m., 1 hour later. So a lot of people are wondering, like, what does this mean? Are they going to settle? So we're going to pose to Ashley, do you think that they're going to settle? Is a settlement coming? Will the party settle today, you think?
I'd be shocked if she did, because even from a PR perspective, she can spin even a loss in court in a way that benefits her, of like, this is what happens to women. You go all the way, you get on the stand, you tell your story, and still the system doesn't support you, and still people are trying to silence you, and men still win against you. From a PR perspective, I don't know if it actually benefits her to settle, to be honest. I think it works better for her to go all the way and lose and spin the story.
A lot of citizens are not thinking that she will settle, but I wanted to play this video from Jaded is Grace over on TikTok. She's saying there's got to be some kind of accountability for her to do all this stuff. So, saying that it needs to go to trial so that, she could be held accountable for this. So I'm gonna play it and see what you guys think.
For anybody that does this, there should be a lesson. Don't do this. If you don't get your way at work, tough shit. Figure it out some other way, but you cannot just make something up that will potentially ruin the other person's life. Right? Blake Lively should not be able to walk away from accusing somebody of sexual harassment and potentially losing their entire career and livelihood scot-free. I don't know what her punishment should be, but if you or I normies went to work and we were like, hey, this thing happened, and here's the evidence I have, and HR looked at it and they were like, we don't even have enough evidence here to take this thing seriously. We're not even going to address this. Not only would we get fired, we would probably have to switch industries, especially if we made it public and spent millions and millions of dollars on legal fees, because nobody would want to work with us. Nobody would take us seriously. At the very least, she should probably lose her agent, her managers, and her team. She should probably be taken off of every project she currently is on and any future potential projects. She should be blacklisted in Hollywood. And I'm not saying I want that to happen to her. I'm just saying there should be heavy consequences for anybody that does this. There should be a lesson. Don't do this. If you don't get your way at work, tough shit.
So I don't agree with the fact that you get fired if you go to HR. If they found nothing there, I'm sure it would be uncomfortable like afterwards because you just accused somebody and now you got to work with them.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would be illegal for you to get fired for bringing something up like that. She should have brought it up to HR. And she's basically saying like, we need to just straight up cancel Blake Lively. She needs to lose all this stuff and all this. But she actually has not lost anything. This is the documented losses for Baldoni.
Mhm.
On the left, you see Vital Voices Award was rescinded. He was dropped by WME. He lost the Pac-Man film. The cast and everybody isolated him. He's an industry pariah. And then if you look over at Lively's, she was the Time 100 honoree. Her movie went #1 globally, A Simple Favor, too. She has multiple lead roles in development. In this, I don't know if it's like, just PR or whatever, because there's been times where she's dropped, I'm going to make a movie like 4 or 5 times and nothing ever happened. So I don't know, like take that with a grain of salt. But it's in the press that she has upcoming movies in the pipeline. And then the successful launch of Blake Brown, as much as she wants to claim damages and stuff like that. That's one of the hurdles I think that's going to be in the trial, or like, the next stage is, can damages even be proven for the retaliation? Because her hair brand was successful in the beginning. And a lot of the experts were saying like, there's no way to say that the reason, because it was such a new brand, there's nothing to compare it to where you're like, well, it did bad after because of Justin Baldoni. Because there's a lot of reviews where, Justin Baldoni can say, look, her hair product was shit. Here's people that were saying like, my hair is bad or whatever. And that could have been why sales dipped. So anyway, she was basically like, kind of like cancel her or whatever. But do you think that Justin Baldoni needs to take it to trial to like prove a point that you just can't do this to people?
Yeah, and I think because so much has been lost for him that he also needs to go to trial. Like he needs to have that, well, even though her team will still spin it regardless, but that verdict that they didn't do this, that they were just, it was a reaction to, their PR was a reaction to what she was putting in place. I mean, he was right. She was following the Taylor Swift playbook, and everyone knows the Taylor Swift playbook. We see it. We know what she does. She unfollows, and then the Swifties turn against everyone and attack them. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, I agree. I think he needs to go to court. I think they both do. And, I saw in the chat, well, Amber Heard tried that and she still lost. Yeah, well, Amber Heard didn't have WME and Ryan Reynolds behind her, and it's still better, in my opinion, for Blake, and they might settle, but it's still better, in my opinion, to go and try that perspective and that approach than to settle, because then what's her PR if they settle?
And so this is where we can find you over on X. This is where I follow you, but you're also on YouTube and you have a ton of stuff in the pipeline. We talked about the Substack with your experience, Impossible book, on your experience with the digital abuse you experienced with Blake, as well as that great Substack on Taylor Swift. Do you want to plug anything here as we head out for the show?
No, I think it's just, Substack's going to be a place where I'm going to have a lot of written exposés and series on cults, on manipulation of the narrative in pop culture and politics over on Substack. So if that's of interest, Substack's definitely the place to be. So I have the 3-part series for the Taylor Swift of it all right now. And then on YouTube, we are hopefully getting back into the swing of things for Monday through Friday lives, other than I have a couple appointments in May for corporations where I'm doing in-house trainings for them. So that might throw off my schedule, but also on YouTube, we hang out. It's a great chat over there. And we talk about everything through the lens of my experience, my 15 years of experience in the psychology of branding, marketing, and PR. So I like to think I give a little bit of a unique spin on everything that's kind of trending in pop culture.
Yeah, it's an awesome show. I love to watch it. I'm pretty much replay crew though a lot because I'm trying to get back into the rhythm of doing a Monday through Friday show. So mad respect for you because it's a lot of work, y'all, to work the the 5 day a week shift.
It is.
Consuming. And I know, and I'm not like some of y'all have labor jobs and all this stuff, so I'm not taking away from that. But it is a job. It is a lot of energies that you're consuming when you're talking about celebrities' dramas. So it does tend to weigh on you. And even like Ashley said, she started to have like PTSD from what Blake, like she got targeted.
Yeah.
I try to have my little bar down there that says allegedly so that nobody comes at me. So hopefully I don't get Gottlieb or nobody. I have love for y'all. Don't come at me. This is just, for entertainment purposes. Tonight, I am going to be doing a live for members only. So if you are not a member, it's $3.99. It helps my coffee sleuthing. It's not going to be no formal show. It's literally just going to be me showing y'all my sleuth process. I'm going to be putting together this Blake's retaliation timeline, which I hope is a little bit of clickbait for the Blake people. I might get smoked from because it's like Blake's retaliation timeline against Justin Baldoni, but it's her retaliation timeline, which I feel allegedly started with this text message between her and Taylor in April of 2023, where, because she didn't get the rooftop scene that she wanted, now she's calling him a clown to Taylor. Now she's asking Taylor to, kind of punk him into allowing this scene or this rooftop scene to be her version. So this is where I feel like the retaliation campaign against Baldoni started to happen, allegedly. So I'm going to start there. And I figured it'd be easier for me to get it done because I have all these ideas and all this stuff. And then I'll parse it here, parse it there. And then I'll have some stuff on my phone, some stuff on the computer. So I figured it might be fun to do it with you guys. And I might stream it live also to TikTok for those of you who can't do the membership part. So thank you so much, Ashley, for coming on. We are going to leave the show. And thank you to our beautiful mods, DFJ and Laura, for all of that. All the people who commented as well. DFJ actually writes some music as well using Suno. So we're going to go off with one of her songs. I'm going to check the pinned comments that I had over here really quick. I forgot about those. Bruce the Moose is saying, I would like to flood the zone with coffee. Yes, please. If you guys found this valuable and got to the end, please consider buying us a coffee. Hen said, give Brian his flowers. And both polls, Baldoni won the court of public opinion according to the chat, and Be Free won the bar for bar. I loved Miley Mercurial, who's a member. She said, Shapiro, Shapiro. Oh, baby, when you talk like that. And I'm going to do an edit because that is so cool. I'm going to do a Shakira edit over on TikTok talking about Alexander Shapiro. Sharona says, CJ is so creative. The imagery kills me, CJ, talking about the rap battle. Don't unleash me with ChatGPT, y'all. I know I'm wasting water, but it was worth it. It was worth it for the lols, right? What you think, Ashley?
I think it was definitely worth it.
Yeah, such a funny pick, said Laura. So thank you to all the mods for all of their hard work. We're going to end the show with a DFJ song. I appreciate y'all for being here, and we'll see you guys tonight, or we'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you all for coming. And hold on, let me hit play here. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate you. Well, let me go ahead and hit play.
Major red flag, this was a power grab. There is no escaping the truth. You can't trust in a predator, get right rid of him. That is actual malice written in ink on you. Major red flag, this was a power grab. There is no escaping the truth. Major red flag, this was a power grab. There is no escaping the truth.
Thank y'all. Have a great night. Day.